My name is Marcus Ellison Reed, and I'm 52 years old. I have steel gray hair that's receded to form a sharp widow's peak, deep-set hazel eyes that seem to catch every detail in a room, and a weathered face marked by years of squinting at blueprints and construction sites. There's a small scar running through my left eyebrow from a piece of rebar that caught me during my apprentice days, a reminder that I came up from the ground floor, literally. For 18 years, I built Meridian Construction Group from a three-man operation into the most respected commercial contractor in Phoenix. We weren't the biggest, but we were the best. Every building we touched was solid, safe, and built to last a century. That's what I told every client, every subcontractor, every new hire who walked through our doors. We don't just build structures, I'd say. We build legacies. The irony wasn't lost on me when they destroyed mine in 15 minutes. It was a Tuesday morning in March when Victoria Ashford walked into my office. She had perfectly styled blonde hair pulled back in a power bun, ice blue eyes that never seemed to blink, and the kind of sharp-featured face you'd see on a corporate magazine cover. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than most of my crew made in a month. Behind her trailed two younger versions of herself MBA clones with identical expressions of calculated ambition. "Marcus," Victoria said, settling into the chair across from my desk without being invited. "I'm sure you've heard the news about the acquisition." I had. Ashford Development Partners had bought out my three silent partners 6 weeks earlier. They'd promised nothing would change in day-to-day operations. They'd promised my 18-year management contract would be honored. They'd promised a lot of things. "Heard something about it?" I said, closing the blueprints I'd been reviewing. "What can I do for you?" Victoria's smile was perfectly practiced. "We're implementing some operational restructuring across our portfolio, bringing our companies into alignment with current market realities." I knew corporate speak when I heard it. Meaning? Meaning we're making changes to the leadership structure at Meridian. Effective immediately. She slid a folder across my desk. My name was typed on a label stuck to the front. Inside, termination papers, severance package, non-compete agreement. 18 years reduced to legal documents and a check. "You've done excellent work building this company," Victoria continued, her voice as warm as a contract negotiation. "But Ashford operates on different principles. We need leadership that shares our vision for growth and profitability." I read through the papers slowly. The severance was generous, too generous. That should have been my first warning sign. "Who's taking over?" I asked. "Brandon Ashford, Victoria's nephew. He's fresh out of Wharton with his MBA. Very innovative thinking about construction management." I looked up from the papers. "Construction experience?" "He's interned with several development firms. Very impressive portfolio." "Building experience?" Victoria's smile tightened slightly. "He understands the business side, which is what matters in today's market." I closed the folder and studied Victoria's face. In her ice blue eyes, I saw everything I needed to know. This wasn't about performance or vision or market realities. This was about control, about bringing in their own people and cutting ties with anyone who might question their methods. "I understand," I said. Victoria looked relieved. "I'm sure you'll do well in whatever comes next. Perhaps some consulting work? Perhaps." I signed the papers, shook her manicured hand, and walked out of the building I'd called home for nearly 2 decades. Just like that, Meridian Construction Group, my life's work, belonged to someone else. That evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by 18 years of project photos. The Phoenix Convention Center expansion, the Arizona State University Research Facility, the Children's Hospital downtown. Buildings that would outlast me, built by crews I'd trained, following standards I'd set. My phone buzzed with text messages from my foreman and project managers. Word travels fast in construction. "Boss, what the hell happened?" Tony Ramirez, my chief foreman. "Is it true? Are you really out?" Sarah Chun, my head project manager. "These new people don't know shit about building." Jake Morrison, electrical supervisor. I didn't respond to any of them that night. I needed time to process what had happened, to understand what came next. 2 weeks later, Brandon Ashford held his first all-hands meeting. I heard about it from Tony, who called me afterward, anger radiating through the phone. "This kid's a joke, Marcus." First thing he says is we're moving too slow on the Scottsdale project. Says his calculations show we can cut the foundation work by 30% and still meet code. My blood ran cold. The Scottsdale project was a 40-story mixed-use tower. Cutting corners on the foundation wasn't just dangerous, it was potentially catastrophic. What did you tell him? I asked, tried to explain why we do what we do. Kid just kept waving around his tablet, showing me efficiency metrics and cost projections. Says the engineering is overly conservative. I closed my eyes. Conservative engineering had kept every one of my buildings standing through 2 major earthquakes and countless storms. There was no such thing as being too careful with foundations. He's bringing his own crews too, Tony continued. Lower bids, faster timelines. Some of the old-timers are already talking about looking for other work. After I hung up, I made a decision. I drove to the Scottsdale site. It was after hours, so security was light. I knew the guard Jimmy Peterson, worked sites around Phoenix for 15 years. He waved me through without question. What I saw made my stomach drop. They'd already started the foundation work, but nothing looked right. The excavation was too shallow. The rebar placement was wrong. The concrete mix looked weak even to my untrained eye from 50 yards away. I took photos. Lots of them. Over the next month, I made it my business to know everything happening at Meridian. Not officially, I had no legal standing anymore, but construction is a small community in Phoenix. People talk. The picture that emerged horrified me. Brandon Ashford was systematically gutting every safety protocol I'd established. Inspection schedules cut in half. Material specifications downgraded. Experienced crews replaced with cheaper, less skilled labor. When Sarah Chen questioned a structural modification on the university project, she was terminated for failing to embrace new methodologies. When Tony pushed back on a roofing shortcut that violated building codes, he was written up for insubordination. Within 6 weeks, 5 of my most experienced people had quit. The rest were keeping their heads down, afraid for their jobs. But the real wake-up call came when I got a text from Jake Morrison at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. "Marcus, you need to see this. Something bad is going to happen." We met at a 24-hour diner near the construction site. Jake looked like he hadn't slept in days. "They're using substandard electrical components on the children's hospital expansion," he said without preamble. Chinese knockoffs that don't meet fire safety standards. I tried to red flag it, but Brandon overruled me. Says the cost savings justify the risk. I stared at him across the table. The children's hospital? Gets worse. The fire suppression system they're installing doesn't have proper backup protocols. If there's an electrical fire, the entire system could fail. My hands clenched involuntarily. We were talking about a building full of sick children and their families. "You have documentation?" I asked. Jake slid a thumb drive across the table. Everything. Emails, purchase orders, inspection reports they're falsifying. I made copies before they could bury it. That night, I sat in my office reviewing Jake's files. The negligence was breathtaking. This wasn't just corner cutting, it was criminal endangerment. I had a choice to make. I could walk away. Take my severance money, start a consulting firm, build a comfortable retirement, let Meridian be someone else's problem. Or I could fight back. I chose to fight. My first move was strategic. I reached out to David Kim, the city's chief building inspector. David and I had worked together for over a decade. He trusted my judgment. "David, I need to talk to you about some concerns regarding active Meridian construction projects." We met at his office the next morning. I laid out everything: the foundation shortcuts, the substandard materials, the falsified inspections. David reviewed the documentation carefully. "This is serious, Marcus. If even half of this is accurate, we're looking at multiple code violations." "It's all accurate. I'll have to conduct surprise inspections on all active Meridian sites," David said. "If we find what you're showing me, work stops immediately." My second move was reaching out to the media. Susan Martinez at the Phoenix Business Journal had covered my work for years. She knew construction, understood the technical details that other reporters might miss. "I'm working on something big," I told her over coffee. "But I need to know you'll follow the story wherever it leads." Susan's eyes lit up. She smelled the kind of investigative piece that wins journalism awards. "What are we talking about?" "Systematic safety violations by a major construction company. Buildings that could collapse, fire systems that could fail, people who could die." I gave her copies of all the documentation. Phone numbers for Jake, Tony, and other former Meridian employees who'd witnessed the negligence firsthand. My third move was the most personal. I called every client Meridian was working for: the university, the hospital, the city, the private developers. "This is Marcus Reed," I'd say. "I built Meridian Construction, and I need to tell you what's happening to your projects." Most listened politely, some hung up. But a few, the ones who'd worked with me before, who knew my reputation, agreed to meet. The university facilities director, an engineer named Robert Santos, met me at the construction site after hours. "Show me," he said simply. I walked him through the structural modifications Brandon had approved, pointed out the weakened load-bearing elements, the inadequate steel reinforcement, the shortcuts that saved money but compromised integrity. Robert's face grew grimmer with each revelation. "Jesus, Marcus. This building houses our chemistry labs. If there's a structural failure, ... People die," I finished. Similar conversations played out across the city. The hospital administrator nearly had a panic attack when I explained the fire suppression issues. The city project manager for the convention center immediately called an emergency meeting with his supervisors. But Victoria Ashford wasn't standing idle. 3 days after my meeting with David Kim, I received a cease and desist letter from Ashford Development's legal team. They were accusing me of violating my non-compete agreement, spreading false information, and interfering with business operations. The letter threatened immediate legal action if I continued what they called my campaign of harassment and sabotage. I called my attorney, Patricia Williams. She reviewed the letter and smiled grimly. "They're scared," she said. "This is all bluster. You haven't violated your non-compete. You're not starting a competing business. You're reporting legitimate safety concerns to proper authorities. Can they stop me? They can try to make your life expensive with legal fees." "But Marcus, if what you're alleging is true, you're not just within your rights, you have a moral obligation to speak out." The next morning, David Kim's inspection team hit all 4 active Meridian sites simultaneously. What they found was worse than even I had documented. The Scottsdale Tower Foundation was so inadequately reinforced that David immediately condemned the structure. The Children's Hospital electrical work was a fire waiting to happen. The university building had load-bearing modifications that violated 3 separate building codes. Work stopped on all 4 projects. Ashford Development stock price dropped 15% in one trading day. Brandon Ashford held a press conference that afternoon trying to contain the damage. "These are minor technical issues being blown out of proportion by a disgruntled former employee," he said, his boyish face flushed with anger. "Meridian Construction has an exemplary safety record." That evening, Susan Martinez's article ran on the front page of the Phoenix Business Journal. "Construction giants' dangerous shortcuts put lives at risk." The story was devastating. Technical details explained in clear language. Photos of substandard work. Quotes from building inspectors, engineers, and former Meridian employees. But the most damaging quote came from me. "I spent 18 years building Meridian's reputation on a simple principle. We don't just build structures. We build legacies. What's happening now isn't construction. It's gambling with people's lives for profit margins." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The state attorney general announced an investigation into Ashford Development's business practices. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration opened their own inquiry. 3 separate class action lawsuits were filed by investors who claimed they'd been defrauded about the company's safety standards. Most importantly, every major client canceled their contracts with Meridian. The university, the hospital, the city, the private developers, they all walked away citing safety concerns. Within 2 weeks, Meridian Construction Group was essentially bankrupt, but Victoria Ashford had one more card to play. She called me directly, her voice cold with fury. "You've destroyed 18 years of work," she said. "Your own legacy along with ours." "No," I replied calmly. "I protected 18 years of work. Every building I built is still standing because we did it right the first time." "You'll never work in construction again." "I'll make sure of it. We'll see." 3 months later, I got a call from Robert Santos at the university. "Marcus, we need to talk. We're looking for a new contractor to finish the research facility project. Someone we can trust to do it right." That conversation led to another and another. Within 6 months, I had 5 former clients asking me to take over projects Meridian had abandoned. I didn't restart Meridian Construction Group. Instead, I founded Reed Building Solutions with a simple mission: fix what others had broken. My first project was rebuilding the Scottsdale Tower foundation. Properly this time, with adequate reinforcement and proper materials. It took 4 months longer and cost 20% more than Brandon's shortcut version would have. But when we were done, the building could withstand a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. Tony Ramirez became my chief foreman again. Sarah Chen signed on as project manager. Jake Morrison handled all electrical work. One by one, the skilled craftspeople who'd made Meridian great found their way to Reed Building Solutions. We're not the biggest construction company in Phoenix, but we're the most trusted, and in this business, trust is everything. Victoria Ashford was wrong about one thing. I didn't destroy my legacy, I protected it. Every building we've completed bears a small brass plaque near the main entrance, built by Reed Building Solutions. Built to last. But there's another message on those plaques, one that only I and my crew understand. In small letters at the bottom, it reads, MER 2024, Marcus Ellison Reed 2024. The year I learned that sometimes you have to tear something down completely before you can build it back better. Brandon Ashford works for a small residential contractor now, building tract homes in the suburbs. Last I heard, he was struggling to make supervisor. Victoria Ashford sold her company to a larger development firm at a significant loss. She moved to Dallas, trying to rebuild her reputation in a market that didn't know her history. Me? I'm still here in Phoenix, still building. Still ensuring that every structure we touch will outlast all of us. Because that's what legacy really means. Not the success you achieve for yourself, but the foundations you lay for others to build upon. And sometimes protecting that legacy means burning down everything else.